Yesterday I cut a bunch of leaves on the Scan and Cut. Today I'm going to show you what I did with them, because that was the other half of the fun part. It was all fun, just different parts of it are different levels of fun and different kinds of fun. So this is the wall hanging that we're doing today. Yesterday we cut the felt for the pumpkin and the leaves for the batik using the Brother Scan and Cut. And today I'm going to walk you through how I embroidered those and the lovely welcome on there. It's gonna be fun. So you guys get to watch the embroidery channel today.
Ooh.
Okay, so the machine I'm gonna be working on today is the Brother Luminaire 2. When I first designed this project, I designed it for the Luminaire 1. But the principles and the kind of the really cool stuff that this machine has is almost the same as the Luminaire 1. So both will do the trick. And I also have a hoop ready to go. So the one really, really cool thing on this Luminaire is the size of the embroidery hoop. So the big hoop on this one is 10 5/8 by 16 inches for your embroidery area, which is massive, which means you can do some stuff with it that you wouldn't be able to do on a smaller machine. I'm actually not going to hoop the placemat that I'm using for this project. I'm going to use a sticky back stabilizer. So this is a 2-layer stabilizer called Stable Stick. I think this is the cutaway version. Nope, this might be the tearaway version. There's a Stable Stick cutaway and a Stable Stick tearaway. Both would work in this project because you won't see the back of it when you're all done. That's the tearaway. So we'll score this and I'll take the paper out and then I'm just going to stick the placemat in, because this was actually just a fancy placemat with the holes already cut out of it when we bought it. So it's going to fit right in that hoop after I take this paper off, that stabilizer. This is the most satisfying part. Ripping the paper off sticky back stabilizer makes those great sounds. So now we have a nice sticky layer that's going to hold my hard to hoop placemat in place. Okay. And I'm going to slide this onto the machine. Oh, I should let this machine wake up all the way first. So most embroidery machines need to do a little hoop calibration when they turn on, so you can't usually have a hoop installed when you turn it on. So it's all awake. I'm going to install the hoop. Okay, so you guys can see what's happening on screen. I'm just going to go get a little bit of, to hold my leaves in place, I'm actually just going to use 505, which is a temporary adhesive spray. Let me get those sprayed for you. For me, you guys don't need them sprayed. You're at home. 505 on the backside of my pumpkins and my leaves. And let me walk you through what this machine can do. And we might get some weird stuff happening because of the projector. The designs I'm using are all individual little files that I made and saved so we could redo this project on a whole bunch of different machines. And the way I got started, I'm going to open those files. I have them on a USB stick. So where you're going to find stuff that's saved on a USB stick on a Brother embroidery machine is in the pocket. And they're on my USB stick. So that's that little USB symbol. And this is in my very fancy folder called MSR Placemat, because that's what its original name was. So if you buy the kit and you want these files, I can definitely email them out to you. And in here, I've got center stitching lines for each of the leaves. And they're all a little bit different because the leaves were different shapes. I've also got the pumpkin and the welcome. So when I started this, the very first one I did, I used that 505 spray and I laid all my pieces down in my hoop to get the arrangement that I wanted. And it's not like there's a really firm right way to do this. You can do it however you want, which is the fun of having a whole bunch of different files, is you can move things around. I think that's where I'd like my leaves. I can pull that back out. So I've just used the sticky spray on the leaves to hold everything in place. And I like this arrangement so far. I'm going to have the welcome sign up along the top there. We had other people, when they did this, switch it around and do the leaves on the other side and the welcome turn the other way. We have people put the pumpkins over here instead of over here. There's really no wrong way to do this project. Whatever makes you happy. So I'm going to start with the pumpkin because it's the biggest piece. So we'll get that in there. And then on board the machine here, we have an automatic needle threader button. I press the button, my needle's threaded. Magic. So I'm going to open my pumpkin design. So I've set the pumpkin as the piece I'd like to stitch. I'm going to hit set. And then when design files open on the Brother embroidery machines, they open right in the center. And I don't have my pumpkin right in the center. So what I'm going to do is take a photo and scan the background of my hoop. So machine's moving the hoop around, and it's going to take a detailed picture of everything in the hoop. And then it's going to show us on screen in a second. Now on screen, we have a scan of where I place those leaves, and I could still move those around if I want, because I can always rescan if it's not making me happy. And what I can do is I can actually just use my finger and drag that pumpkin down onto where I've placed the felt. And you'll note you get really big, awkward movements when you use your finger. So there's another option in here. We'll hit close on that background scan, and we can go into edit for this particular little design. And I can move it more accurately. And the way I built this file is I did build it to have a little bit of a raw edge look. So the stitching lines aren't going to land right at the edge of the felt, but it'll be far enough in the felt that the felt can live a little bit and grow. You could always make this pumpkin design a little bit bigger. So we could size it up ever so slightly if we wanted. And have it fit inside on top of that felt a little bit tighter. If you're pretty happy with where that's landing, we can hit OK. And then we can hit embroidery. The color on screen right now is just blue, but I've got the machine threaded up with brown thread. And then I have one final check of where this stitching is going to land. The Brother Luminaire and the Luminaire 2 have a built-in projector. Projector on board the machine is this cone-shaped icon on screen. You can just see the edge of the pumpkin there, but I can move which part is being highlighted. So right now, the stem of my pumpkin is up here. The stitching lines are falling along the edge of the fabric. There's kind of that, I'm going to call it a seam line, but the indent on the pumpkin is there, and the other one's running right through here. So far, that's landing where I'd like it to land. But I can check the whole pumpkin all the way around to make sure that I'm going to land on top of felt all the way. And I can still move and adjust a little bit if I need to. I'm pretty happy with where that's going to stitch. So you can hit OK. And then you're ready to stitch this piece. When I first made this part of the file, it does have 3 pieces to it. So it actually has a placement line, a tack down line, and a final stitching line. I'm going to skip through this design and not stitch the placement line because I already have my pumpkin where I wanted. So you could do this as more regular applique where you put the placement line in and put the pumpkin on top. But I'm just going to do it without stitching that first line. I'm going to move to stitch number 2, which is going to be an outline stitch all the way around the outside of the pumpkin. And today on the embroidery show, our first stitch out is going to take, well, this pumpkin's going to take 4 minutes to stitch. And that ding, ding, ding noise means it's ready for a new color. And the color breaks in this embroidery design are just for the different steps in the applique. They're not actual color changes unless you want them to be. So the next step here is the rest of the stitching on the pumpkin, followed by the stem. So what you're watching right now is called an underlay. An underlay in embroidery is the stitches that support your final pretty stitch. The final stitch on this is called a step fill. So it's a step fill underlay. The underlay helps hold the fabric in the right place for the top stitches to land where they need to. And it keeps it from collapsing or puckering. Okay, so I've got my pumpkin done, and now I have 4 individual leaf files to choose from, and I believe they're not, they're just numbered, and the leaves don't have corresponding numbers. So we get to play a little bit of which leaf goes with which stitch out. When you're done stitching what you're stitching for your first bit of this embroidery, we can go back to the home key, and okay. And we can go back to embroidery and back to that back pocket where I'm hiding that file on my USB stick and under my MSR placemat. And in no particular order, we're going to start with leaf 1. And leaf 1, for those of you following along, is going to be our maple leaf shape. This one here. So it's got all that crinkly look after sitting outside all fall. The leaves have curled. Feels very fall. So I'm going to open that one and deal with it, and then we'll come back and deal with the other couple. We're going to hit set, and we'll do that screen grab again, or scan the hoop. Okay, so my little leaf here, this belongs with my maple leaf down there. When you first look at this, it is not lined up the same way at all. The longer part of this vein up the middle goes to the point, and the shorter bit goes down into the stem of that leaf. So we're going to close that screen and hit edit. And then I'm going to rotate first because it's definitely not the right orientation to line up. And can go 90. Oh, we're kind of close. But I think I have it curling the wrong way. So we might also need to mirror this, and then I'll get it placed the rest of the way. Because I don't know which side of this leaf I sprayed. It's a batik, so there is no right side. Doesn't really matter, but you do have a mirror function on board. And it's mirrored it, and now I have to go back and rotate again. Ooh, that's probably where I want that. Then we can use the arrow keys on screen to move this right on top of that leaf. And I can zoom in better for you guys. So you can zoom in up to 400% on this screen. So now we're looking at our little leaf down there. Better detail. And that looks to me like we have stitching lining up on top of the main parts of our leaf. I'm happy with that. And okay. And then we can hit embroidery. And then once more, I would just double check with the projector that this is exactly where you think it's going to be. We can change which part of the screen is lit up with the projector. So on screen, right on board the machine, we can see exactly where that little stitching line is going to land. It is going to go down the stem. It's not down the center, but this is a fall relaxed project where it doesn't really matter as long as you land on top. Whether you're centered or not might drive you nuts, but I'm pretty happy if this is close. So I'm going to hit OK, and we're ready to stitch that bit. Go open the next little leaf file. You could definitely set up all the leaves. When you get to the projector stage, if they're all still individual, the only item on screen, they'll move individually. If you have all of them on screen at once, when you get to the projector, if you move anything in that final screen by a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, it'll move everything on screen with it, not just the selected item. Some of that editing you can do only individual items earlier on, but at the final stage, you can only move the whole embroidery screen all at once. Oh, I could keep my background image. Oh, I remembered my background image. Isn't that great? And then I'm going to go take this little leaf, tell it to move. This one, leaf 2, goes with that kind of heart-shaped leaf. I believe I actually set this one up for the veins to go not the way you would think. So now I'm on there and it looks like that leaf is going to have veins where I'd like them to go. So, okay. And again, embroidery. And once again, I'm just going to double check with the projector. The little stems on these leaves are really skinny, and I'd like to make sure they're getting stitched down. I'm actually just going to move that up just a smidge. And now it's centered a little better through my leaf. Let's go find another leaf. Get rid of the last leaf we did. There's more than one way of doing this. Okay, so we're going to turn that background scan that we previously did on. And this leaf, leaf number 3, is going to go up with that yellow leaf. You can rotate by just a little bit if you just need that final fine tune at the end. Embroidery. And I'll check the projector once more. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I would like the machine to read my mind, but it doesn't, just so you know. Because when I'm ready to stitch, I want it to just go. Happy embroider sound. We're finished that little bit. Well, let's go find our last little leaf. And this leaf looked like it maybe didn't get as much 505 on it, so it's lifted a little. I am going to scan. No, I'm not going to scan again. It's close, and I'll just double check with the projector when I'm done. The other nice thing about doing a small project like this and practicing rotating and moving, you get much more comfortable knowing which direction you need to rotate your objects on screen to get them to land where you want them to. It's not a skill that everybody's great at the beginning, but it does get easier if you practice. Tell that leaf to stay down. Down, leaf, down. So there's a couple ways of getting to the next part that I'd like to do. And I'll show you one way of getting there and then explain what I actually did to get the file that I used for this. In the lettering, we can pick a font that we like, this one. So I wrote welcome using the full keyboard. So in here, we have array and spacing that we can change. So on board the machine, you're actually able to change the curvature of this text. So I wanted it curved. And you can change the curve. You can flatten it or scrunch it up a whole bunch. Things get really weird if you scrunch it up too much. So on board the machine, you can adjust the curvature of that lettering for your own unique purposes. But this is something we could do, and I'll show you roughly where that might land on that background scan. We'll get rid of that little leaf bit. And we'll turn that image on. So when I put this up here, so let's stitch that one. The end of the embroidery channel tonight is watching this welcome stitch out. Another 4 minutes. Little hop that the machine does, and the little arm with the embroidery foot helps lift the thread tail from the previous cut out of the fabric, so you don't have tails in between your individual pieces, like between the letters. I also love how quiet this embroidery machine is. Big fan. Pretty quick project. When you're done, this can come off the machine and we can remove the stabilizer. So I'm going to loosen the latch on this machine is super easy to loosen. So if you have a hard time tightening screws on hoops, the latches on here are great. And then we'll take that out of the hoop. So with this tearaway stabilizer, there is see-through holes in this stitch out. You don't need to get it out really super. Maybe this is tearaway? Yeah, it's tearaway. A stiletto or an awl will help you score it around your embroidery. You want to support your stitches while you tear it out. You don't want to pull stitches out. And you don't need to remove all the stabilizer. This is essentially a wall hanging. As long as you're not seeing stabilizer in behind the cutouts, I think you're going to be pretty happy. Quick and painless. Enough is removed that we don't see any white stabilizer in behind. I need to pick the piece up that I dropped on the floor though. I'm going to pan down while you guys pan up. So the last thing that came in the kit, if you buy this little kit, it's called the Fall into Fall Wall Hanging, is a piece of felt for the back. And we just attached that using a straight stitch, following one of the seam lines that's already in that placemat with matching thread. So using a guide foot or a stitch in the ditch foot or an edge stitch foot, you'll be able to go all the way around and make it have a pretty green background. And if you don't want green, which is in the kit, we have all sorts of other colors of felt that you could back it with. But I thought the green was pretty nice. But then you could just hang that on your door. Any number of other hangers would probably do the trick. So that's my Fall into Fall wall hanging. There is kits available. There's not very many because this was a placemat that we only found a few of, but there's lots of other ways you could do something really similar. So thank you for joining me today. Be safe, be kind, be calm, and be happy you can stay home and isolate.